Good morning, I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche organization with your daily video update for December 13th, 2024. I have two brief updates I'll go through and then I'll take some questions. And I think these updates are quite significant. Let's start with what Donald Trump had to say about the U.S. firing ATACMS missiles, the U.S. through Ukraine, shooting missiles that strike deep into Russia. He said this in an interview with Time magazine, the issue that named him Time Person of the Year. Here's what he said on the ATACMS. Quote, "I disagree very vehemently with sending missiles hundreds of miles into Russia. Why are we doing that? We're just escalating this war and making it worse. That should not have been allowed to be done. Now they're doing not only missiles, but they're doing other types of weapons. And I think that's a very big mistake, very big mistake, very foolish." Well, this is an important statement coming from the president-elect because it indicates that he's serious about ending this war. And it also shows that he knows that the collective Biden administration, whoever's calling the shots, is trying to use these missiles to provoke Russia to force a situation where Trump will feel compelled to stay in the war. So for him to come out and make this statement now is extremely important because just yesterday, 6 more ATACMS missiles were fired into Russia. Now, I would urge you to go to the site of Diane Sare on the LaRouche organization, where she posted a statement about this with some more background material. This is a statement which should be circulated widely, and it includes Diane's marching orders as to what to do to stop the Biden administration from provoking war. Now, also coming from Trump was his invitation to Xi Jinping to attend the inaugural on January 20th. Very interesting, very symbolic? No, it's not symbolic. It shows that he is open to talking with these leaders. Now, he should communicate with Israel's leaders because they should stop their flight forward attacks as well as stop the genocidal attacks on the Palestinians. The Times of Israel reported today that Netanyahu wants to bomb Iran's nuclear sites. And RT is reporting there's some people in his transition team, in Trump's transition team, who also agree with that. Now, according to the report in the Times of Israel, they say that the idea is to exploit Iran's weakness now that the Assad government has collapsed. I think most of you know that over the last couple of days, the Israeli Air Force has launched a whole series of strikes against Syria's weapons depots and so on. The question is, will they now move against Iran? There have been IDF troops, Israeli troops, that have gone into Syria around the Golan Heights. Now, the overthrow of Assad makes the whole situation in the Middle East much more dangerous. It's part of what you might call a global great game, which is verging on World War III. The Biden administration is pushing for this because they want to contain Trump. They want to create a situation where he has no choice but to continue the wars. And instead, to break the containment, Trump should act to contain Netanyahu, because it's the actions of Netanyahu which are the trigger for this bigger regional war. But by doing that, he would break the media bubble with the lies about Syria, with the whole coverage of what's being done to box in Trump. So I would encourage the president to break with Netanyahu's policy of ethnic cleansing of Palestine and to be clear on the fact that we need a ceasefire immediately to stop the fighting that's going on in the Middle East. So now to get to the questions. The first question I have is from Al in the UK. And he asks, is there any reaction to the statement by General Thomas Buchanan, who's the planning director of STRATCOM, which is U.S. nuclear planning, on the U.S. using a nuclear strike against Russia, but saving enough missiles so the U.S. can continue to be number one? He asks, is there any update on that? Well, Colonel Douglas Macgregor on Judging Freedom with Judge Napolitano did respond to it. Napolitano asked him about Scott Ritter warning about this and calling attention to the Buchanan statement. And Macgregor was typically blunt and straightforward. He said, if American leaders are behind this, then they are suicidal. He said, Russia knows what's going on and they will respond. And he said, the people doing this, not just suicidal, they are psychopaths. There is no winning this war. It's a very strong statement, very necessary statement from Colonel Macgregor, who was a deputy to the acting defense secretary at the end of Trump's first term. Now, second question, what's going to happen in Germany on the no confidence vote? It's scheduled for next week. There's been some controversy over it because if the vote is yes, there's no confidence in the Schultz coalition, then the coalition is finished and it moves elections ahead, and it's now expected the elections would be February 23rd. Elections are scheduled for September 2025, but if the Schultz government falls in a no confidence vote, and it's already essentially fallen over the budget, but if it fails, that is, if the no confidence vote succeeds, then that would be the end of the Schultz coalition, and the elections would be on February 23rd. Now, what's important about that is that it's likely that the winner will be, or not likely, but as of the moment, the leader in the polls is Friedrich Merz, the head of the Christian Democrats. And Merz is a big supporter of using the Taurus missiles, the long-range missiles that Germany has, to be used against Russia. And so you have a growing sentiment against the war, saying, no, we have to dial this back. But you have people like the Greens who are saying, no, we have to go ahead and get this policy continued. The Greens are supporters of the war, and they will vote to bring down Schultz. They're hoping, I think, that they can be brought in as part of a coalition government with the CDU and Merz. So the situation in Germany is very dangerous. The economy's collapsing, and instead of dealing with the economy, they're preparing for the war that they expect will be coming any day now. And when I say any day now, they're talking about 2026, 2027. But if you keep provoking Russia, it will happen sooner than anyone thinks. Now, finally, I have a question from a viewer said, I have recently been reading old articles written by Lyndon LaRouche. I find them fascinating, especially his forecasting. Is someone in the LaRouche organization writing an official biography of him? And this writer said, I have no wish to read the deep state arguments against him. I just want to know more about his life. It's a good idea. I don't know if anyone's doing that yet. It's something that should be done. But we have a wealth of material by LaRouche. And I think you'll discover, if you start looking through this, how prescient he was, how his forecasting worked, and how he had a method behind his forecasting, a method which would be extremely useful in the hands of a president or a treasury secretary who could use LaRouche's ideas for the sake of building the physical economy. Now, we do have something that will help you with that. It's called the LaRouche Legacy Foundation. There's a link to it in the description box, and we've already printed Volume 1. Volume 2 will be coming out soon, and the idea is to take the volume of LaRouche's works, which are the term is voluminous, get his works out. And for the most part, these are not simply his published articles, but include comments that he made on a number of issues. LaRouche was one of the seminal figures in the latter part of the 20th century, one of the real intellectuals. And what he thought about things is extremely important for the peace faction in the world to know what he was proposing to counter the drive toward war. So I thank you for this email. Maybe we can get someone to write a biography. If I had more time, I certainly would do it, because I spent a lot of time with Lyndon as his spokesman after 1999. But we should consider that. But in the meantime, his writings are there. In fact, the first volume of the LaRouche Legacy Foundation would be a wonderful Christmas present to someone you know who needs to discover the mind of Lyndon LaRouche. So later today, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, there will be the next meeting of the International Peace Coalition. The link is in the box, the description box, so you can log on. These have been crucial meetings for pulling together an international peace movement. So take advantage of that. And